from Veterans for Peace Rock. Now I would like to call it Hendrick from Veterans for Peace Maine.
Thank you, Rob. I'm going to try to be somewhat succinct in as much as I think that much of what I had to say has already been said. I'd like to think of myself as being among the informed in our country. But being informed makes me forlorn and pissed off and embarrassed and energized and outraged and something of a pariah in the world in which I once lived. How grossly and completely I'd been used and misled. I've got a whole host of grievances that have provided me with the foundation of the rather disparaging opinion I have of my own country. I doubt that I know much that many of you don't also know, but I feel a need to express myself, to vent myself, and as much as I think it may be beneficial to my mental health. Here's some pertinent history that I'd like to share with you, along the theme of atrocities are us. Brian Wilson, the noted author and member of Veterans for Peace, who many of you here might know, who as an activist in 1987 lost both of his legs trying to stop an armaments shipment train from delivering weaponry down to Nicaragua and El Salvador. Brian Wilson has identified the 3 genocides of American history. The first we know of as the annihilation of the indigenous people on this continent. When Columbus arrived here, there were on the order of 18 million Native Americans living north of the Rio Grande. By 1900, there were 250,000. The second generation that Brian Wilson writes about was that of slavery, setting aside the unspeakable kidnapping of 50 to 60 million human beings from the African continent. Not all those lives can be placed on the shoulders of our forebears, but we know a major piece of that genocide was the lynching of black Americans, some 50,000 murdered between 1882 and 1968. And finally, there is the third genocide that we here are all too personally familiar with, that of the global imperial plunder that continues today. Brian Wilson cites 560 U.S. military interventions in dozens of countries since 1798 to protect our freedoms, to protect our American interests. These would include Korea, where we know 4 to 5 million Koreans and Chinese were murdered, bombed. A piece of that was the massacre in Jeju. We know about Jeju because there too is an American base that's greatly resented by the native people. The Jeju massacre occurred in 1948. The U.S. oversaw the murder of 80,000 Jeju Islanders out of a population of 300,000. In my war, Vietnam, we killed as many as 3 million Vietnamese. As further evidence of the manner in which this country has behaved as a pariah among the community of nations, 2 to 3 million victims of Agent Orange, second and third generations victims of Agent Orange, languish in institutions today unable to take care of themselves. Within this third genocide that Brian Wilson writes of, we have to include Thule, Greenland, where those people were displaced to make way for a base. The people of Diego Garcia, same story. The people of the Marshall Islands, a similar story. And what about Guantanamo, where we know 40 individuals still languish, not having even been charged in some cases? We are at war today in 7 countries. This is all a revolting body of evidence of the manner in which our country has operated and continues to operate around the world. What about this vast empire of 800 bases that we hear about? Well, as David Swanson has spoken and others before me, well, the military base empire makes no sense at all. As Okinawans can attest, there's always environmental degradation. There is always associated crime. There's always noise pollution, always an intrusion and disruption of host peoples' cultures, their economies, and internal politics. And usually, of course, there's associated resentment and protest. These bases make us no safer, and in fact make the world a less safe place to live. But the biggest elephant in the room is that of the U.S. military as being the greatest polluter on Earth. The Pentagon uses more petroleum than the aggregate consumption of 175 countries. The U.S. must change its ways. We must decrease the footprint of American militarism. It is time for a sea change in American foreign policy. Time to stop bullying. Time to stop othering the people of other countries. Time to stop demonizing Russia and Venezuela and China and North Korea and Cuba, whose leaders may not subscribe to the notion of American exceptionalism. It is time to reduce the U.S. military empire. What better place than Henoko? I'd like to conclude with a rhetorical question. Is there no place on Earth so remote, so pristine, so sacred as to be inviolable by the U.S. military? The answer, of course, is no. But the Okinawans might elaborate by saying, Nuchi de Dakara. Life is precious. Nuchi de Dakara. Life is precious. Nuchi de Dakara in Oro Bay. Nuchi de Dakara in Henoko. Nuchi de Dakara in Genowan City. Nuchi de Dakara in Futena. Nuchi de Dakara in Iraq, in Iran, in Syria, in Yemen, in Niger, in Somalia, in Afghanistan, in Palestine, and in the Gaza Strip. Everywhere. Nuchi de Dakara. Thank you.